Hello, good evening. Let's wait a few seconds till everybody joins. How many people already? Okay. Good evening, guys. Tonight I would like to welcome you to a special blockchain training with a total new perspective, how you're going to teach yourself first and how you're going to teach the people you are talking to about this industry. Obviously, this is a new industry. A lot of people are not familiar with it. And the purpose of this training is to understand with what you are busy with. Sometimes you get lectures and people tell you you need to do this, you need to do that, but you don't understand why you do so and what is behind it. So the idea, what I want to do tonight, is give you a picture and an idea, what is it all about? When you understand what you are dealing with and why you are doing it, it will be much easier to figure out by yourself and teach others how to do it. So, first of all, I would like to point out that the things I'm going to show you tonight is how I see it and the research I made and how I understand this industry. But obviously you should do your own research, and I don't want to take any responsibility on the details and the information I'm going to share tonight. So I'm not going to share tonight any details on how you download a wallet, how you make transactions, how you make backups. All the details will probably follow in the next training by me or by others. The idea from this training is to give you a big picture idea of what this is all about. And the idea is, if you understand it, you can figure it out by yourself, like I did by myself. Nobody teach me how to do it, but I made research by myself, what this is all about, and I figured it out by myself how I need to do it. So let's start. The first part will be, how do we transfer information, data, or any piece of value in this world? There's a lot of information going around. How do we do it? Now I'm going to teach to give you a little bit of history. In the last 100 years, basically, we all know there's a telephone, there's a post office, and there's a bank. A telephone is also for information. You can transfer information. I can call a friend and talk to him. This is also information transfer. Or I can go to the post, I can send a letter, or I can go to the bank if I want to transfer something out of value. Then in 1970, there's a new thing that came out, which is the internet. Before we had telephone, the post, and the bank, and then the internet came along and made everything more digital. So you can call through the internet, you can send post through the internet, you can bank through the internet. Then from 2000 and now, there's a new thing that came along, which is blockchain, which I'm going to focus tonight. But to give you a little bit the history of information and data transfer, you have the telephone, the post, the bank, the internet, email, etc. And then you have the blockchain. The second part, I'm going to go a little bit more in detail how this information transfer happened in the past and how it's being conducted today. In the telephone, everybody knows when you pick up a phone, you must put in a valid phone number, including the area code, depend on the country you want to call. If you put in the wrong number, or even you put in the right number, but the recipient's phone, you want to call a friend, but his phone is turned off, the phone won't go through and it won't be completed. Very simple, everybody knows this. Same thing with a post. When you go into the post, you must put in a valid address. You need to write it down on an envelope, the correct recipient address. If you put in the wrong address, or even you put in the right address, but the recipient doesn't have a mailbox, the letter you want to send won't arrive and the transfer won't be completed, obviously. Same story with email. When you send an email to a friend, you must put in a valid email address. If you put in a wrong email address, or even you put in a right email address, but the recipient is not connected to the internet, the email will not be completed until the recipient is connected to the internet. This is basic stuff everybody knows by telephone, by post, or by email how to do it. You need to put in the right recipient information. When using a telephone, it's a telephone number, an area code. Post, it's an address. And email, it's also an address, but a digital address. If you do it wrong, the transfer won't be completed, obviously. I'm going to go a little bit more in detail about email. So, for example, if you put in the right email address, but the recipient is not connected, in order for him to read your email, he will be necessary to connect to the internet and open his email account in order to read it. So if you put in the right email address and you send out an email, the email won't be lost. Even if the recipient is not connected to the internet, the email won't be lost. It will be in his account. Once he's connected to the internet and he opens his account, he will be able to see the email you sent. If somehow he lost access to his email account, there might be a recovery process serviced by the email provider. Let's say you have a Gmail account, you can contact Google and say, I lost access to my Gmail account, please give me access back to my Gmail. If you fulfill the certain requirements they ask, you can get your access back. Not always, but sometimes you get your access back, and then you will be able to see the emails you received even when you were offline. Now with a bank, which is more fragile because we talk about value, the first thing you need to have, obviously, you need to have sufficient funds. If you don't have funds in your account, you cannot make any transfers. Second, as with telephone, post, or email, you need to enter the correct recipient information, which is a bank number, a BIC number, whatever the routing number. In every country it's different, but everybody understands when you want to make a bank transfer, you need to put in the recipient information, the correct recipient information. If you do not have sufficient funds, or you enter the wrong information, the transfer will not be completed, obviously. You cannot transfer funds to the wrong bank account number. If you enter the right information, the transfer won't be lost. If somehow the recipient lost access to his bank account, for some reason, could happen. It doesn't happen very often, but it could happen. There might be the same as email, it might be a recovery process serviced by the bank to get access back to your bank account. And then you will see the transfers that were made even when you were offline or you didn't have any access. The transfers that happened before will appear in your bank account. So again, if you put in the right information, the transfer won't be lost. Now there are a lot of 4 types of transfers I want to discuss today. If we want to talk broadly about information and data transfers, and there's communication, information transfer, value transfer, and then there's physical transfer like objects. In communication, there's a lot of kind of communication. There's phone calls, video calls, chats, social media, and so on. Everybody is familiar with that. Information, when you transfer information, it can be digital, it can be in a post. All kinds of information can be valuable information, it can be not valuable information. If I want to transfer just a happy birthday letter to someone, it's not so valuable. But if you want to transfer valuable information like birth certificate, social security, ID card, whatever, we can have information that is very valuable to people, so it has to be handled with more care. Then we have value transfer. Value transfer can be summed up in a few categories. We have physical value, like gold, silver, antique, and so on. There's a lot of physical values that people have. And then you have digital value, valuable data like passwords, codes, personal information. Like I said earlier, if you want to transfer a passport, social security, all kinds of digital or even not so digital valuable information. Then we have the physical. If we go only physical, there's gold, silver, antique, and other stuff, computers, you name it, physical value transfer. Now we come to blockchain. There's an old saying, what the internet has done for communication, blockchain has done for finance and trusted transactions. Blockchain has changed the dynamics on how we deal with finance, basically bank transfers, value transfers, money, and so on, and trusted transactions that has a certain kind of value in it. So I'm going to go in a little bit more in detail about blockchain. What is blockchain? Blockchain is a trustless transaction. A trustless transaction means basically that the participants involved do not need to know or trust each other or a third party for the system to function. You don't need to trust anyone. You need to trust, obviously, the system, but the system is trustless. It functions by itself without any third party involved. What's the difference than a bank? Very simple. When making a transfer using a bank account, the bank you use, no matter what the bank is, they don't physically move any funds from your account to the recipient's account. The only thing they do is they deduct the balance from your account, the amount you want to send, and they add it to the balance of the recipient you are sending it to. And they use an internal ledger. A ledger means a book. They note everything in a book. Obviously, they have securities, checkpoints in place, but they basically use an internal bookkeeping. When you send, let's say, 100 euros from your account to your friend's account, they deduct it from your balance and they add it to your friend's balance, but they don't physically move any funds from your account to the recipient's account. But they use an internal bookkeeping for that. A plus and a minus. It goes down from your account and it goes plus in the recipient account. Blockchain works on a completely different way, and this is the new idea of blockchain. Blockchain is a system of recording information in a way that it makes it difficult or impossible to change, hack, or cheat. A blockchain is essentially a digital ledger, like we discussed in the bank, a bookkeeping, a digital one. It's a digital ledger of transactions that is duplicated and distributed across the entire network of computers that is connected to the chain. So, for example, let's say you use a bank. I'm going to give an example of a Belgian bank. Let's say you use a Fortis bank and you want to send 100 euros from your account to your friend's account. So it goes in the internal ledger, it goes minus from your balance and plus in your friend's balance. But it's only recorded in one place, in the accounting, in the bookkeeping, in the ledger from the bank. In blockchain is different. Everyone that has an account by Fortis, let's say, for example, and is connected to the system, immediately when you make a transfer, gets a copy of this action you want to do. So if you send 100 euros from your account to your friend's account, every person that is connected to the system gets immediately a copy of this transaction. So nobody can come back afterwards and change, let's say, from 100 and put in this extra zero and make 1,000 out of it. because thousands and thousands and millions of people that are connected to the system have already received a copy of this transaction. So if somebody wants to cheat or change something, the system will reject it automatically because they received live when you made a transaction, they received a copy of this transaction. Nobody can change it afterwards. To summarize it, it's all about trust. So when you make a bank transfer, you trust the bank and the internal ledger they have, that they make it correct. When making a blockchain transfer, every computer connected to the chain gets updated automatically, and the result is, like I said, you cannot change it or even do a mistake. And you don't need to trust the bank because every computer connected to the internet is basically the checkpoint that checks if the transaction is done correctly. If it's done correctly, it goes through. If it's not done correctly, it won't go through. So nobody can cheat anything there. How do you use it? Like I said in the beginning, if you understand the principles, it's not different than making a telephone or using a post office, or recently, as everybody knows by now, how to send an email. You need to put in the correct recipient information. If you want to send a blockchain transaction, you need to enter the recipient information correct. We call it a wallet address. As you know, you have a telephone number, or you have a post address, or you have an email address. In a blockchain, when we talk about cryptocurrency at least, it's called a wallet address. If you don't put in the right address, the transfer won't go through. If you put in the right address, basically the right recipient information, the transfer will never be lost. Very simple. This is where people get confused, and I call it the danger in blockchain. So to be clear, blockchain never fails. It cannot fail. But humans, unfortunately, do. Humans can do mistakes. Humans can sometimes try and cheat. But the system never fails. So in blockchain, you don't rely on a bank to keep your funds safe. You don't rely on the bank to execute your transaction. You are in control and in total control, and it's your responsibility to do it correct. In the bank, if you do a mistake, you can call them maybe and see if you can fix it. In blockchain, basically you are your own bank and you are in control, and you must make sure you do it correct. If you do it the wrong way, it's your responsibility. And this is the danger. If people don't know how to use it, they do mistakes and there's no returning. So what do you need to know? The principle in blockchain is very simple. There's a public key which functions like a bank account number. So if I want to send funds from my bank account to your bank account, I need to put in your bank account details. And then there's a private key which functions like your password or the key to your vault. This is a key that gives you access to your funds. I'll explain it a little bit more in detail. Your public key, which we call an address, can be made public with no harm. It's exactly like a bank account number. Everybody can see your bank account number and nobody can do anything with it. The only purpose of the public key is to receive funds. If somebody wants to send you funds, you need to give him the public key, which is essentially your bank account number. With this bank account number, with this public key, it's a wallet address. They can send you funds, coins, tokens, whatever. Your private key, like I said, is the key to your wealth. It's basically the password or the key to your vault, to your funds. And this has to be safeguarded and stored safe in a secret place at all time. If you lose your private key, you basically lose ownership of your funds. So the public key is your bank account number, you can lose it because you can create a new one. Nobody can do anything with it. The private key, which is basically your key, if you lose it, you lose ownership of your funds. There's an old saying in blockchain, no keys, no funds. So if you lose it, you lose ownership of your funds. This is very important. People should understand. You can and you should encrypt your private key with a password. So in case somebody finds it, they cannot do anything with it because it has still a password on it. So if you lose your private key and somebody finds it, if there's no password in it, if there's no password on it, it's not encrypted. Everyone that has this private key can just take your funds and take it away, and you cannot do anything with it, to it. So your private key is basically your key that has access to your wealth, to your funds, to your finance, whatever you want to call it. Is the private key is the essential part of the blockchain technology. Public key is something you can publicize. Nobody can do anything with it except of sending your funds. So no issue with it. If you lose or you forget your password, there's no way to recover it. So if you put a password, and you should put a password on your private key, if you lose or forget your password, you won't be able to decrypt it and open it up again. So this is very important. You need a password, so if somebody finds it, they cannot run away with your funds. But if you lose it, there's no way to recover it. Again, as I said, you cannot contact the bank. You cannot contact the email provider. There's nobody to contact here because you are in total control. It's yours and it's decentralized. Nobody can access it. It's yours. So make sure you encrypt your private key with a password and keep the private key safe and don't lose it or forget it, obviously. And don't make, okay, this is also easy to understand. Don't make an easy password people can figure out, obviously, but make sure to always keep your private key safe and don't lose your password. Now, a lot of people talk about keeping funds on an exchange or in third-party companies that provide services for people to keep their funds over there. It's basically they act like a bank. So you need to trust them. But the issue with blockchain and with cryptocurrency as a whole, there's a lot of exchanges out there and you don't know who they are. And the question is very simple. Do you know them? Do you trust them? If you would be 100% sure you can trust them just like your bank, yes, it would be easier to keep your funds over there. But the problem is you don't know who they are. If you can find somebody you can trust blindly 100%, it's obviously easier than being in control and being responsible on your own funds. But always the question comes back, when you put funds on a third-party platform and you don't know who they are, do you trust them? It all comes back down to trust. If you keep it by yourself, obviously you need to trust one person, which is you and yourself, that you will handle it with care and you won't lose it, you will put the right password on it and do the necessary steps to keep it safe. But once you do the right steps, there's no trusting anybody. You need to trust only yourself. If you put it on third-party platforms, you need to trust them. And the question is always, would you? To summarize, if you keep your funds secure by securing the private key with a password, so you put a password on your private key, so if you lose it and somebody finds it, it has no use. They cannot use it because there's a password on it. You keep it safe and you don't forget your password, you won't lose your funds ever. There's no way you lose your funds if you have a good password and you don't lose your private key and your password. Additionally, if you send funds the correct way, like I said earlier, very simple, you just need to put in the right recipient information in the right amount, obviously. If you want to send 100 tokens to someone and you by mistake enter 1,000 or 10,000, you cannot go back. Once it happened, it happened. But if you do it correct, the transfer won't be lost ever. It's very, very simple. First of all, thank you for watching, and I'm going to summarize it again shortly. When you meet people and you teach other people how to deal with this industry, don't go into detail direct how to make a transaction, how to do it. First, explain him what this is and how he needs to handle it. If a person understands that sending tokens from one wallet to another, or from an exchange to a wallet, or from the back office to an exchange, or from the exchange to a desktop wallet, you name it, if they would understand that it is as simple to send tokens from one person to another as like sending an email, which everyone knows how to send an email, you just need to ask the guy you want to send an email, please send me your email address and I will send you an email. Same story with blockchain. If you want to send tokens from one party to another, you just need to have the correct recipient information. If you have the correct recipient information and you put in the correct recipient information, the transfer will go through. If people understand this basic idea that it is exactly the same as with a telephone, a post office, a bank, or an email, they will figure out by themselves how to do it. They can download a wallet, they can open up an exchange. This is part 2. But if you start explaining them, you need to do this, you need to do that, and they don't understand why they do it, so they do it incorrect and they do mistakes, and then they keep calling you back and they keep calling you back. But if they would understand that it's as simple as sending an email, they will all figure it out by themselves how to do it, or once you show them how to do it, it will be for them as simple, and they won't call you ever again. For example, I'll give you a small example, yeah? Like we said earlier, if you send an email to someone and you put in the right email address and the guy calls you, I didn't receive your email. And you know for sure, look, I copy pasted your email address and I've sent you an email. There's no way this email didn't go through. So the first question you ask, are you connected to the internet? If this guy tells you, no, I'm not connected to the internet, sorry, I need to connect my computer, open my email account, and then he will see his email address. The same story with blockchain. If you put in the right email wallet address and you send funds, the transfer will go through. There's no way it does not go through. Now you can go into detail. Is his computer connected to the internet? Is his wallet up to date? Is his wallet synced? If everything is done correctly, the funds won't be lost. It won't ever be lost. It cannot be lost, and it's impossible for it to be lost. Now, is there any questions? If there's any questions you want to ask, I would like, I can, huh? Minimum amount of what? I'm going to read a few questions on Facebook. Amount to make it, there's no minimum amount to make a transfer. Is there any other questions? I can, if somebody has a question that he wants me to answer, you can send a question into the Facebook in the comments and I will try answering it. Is there any questions? No? Give me a second, I'll check. Okay, let me check. I'm going to check second in the comments. Minimum amount. Somebody asks if I can explain how you get the private key. The private key you don't get. Every time you download the wallet, you have a private key. You just need to download it. You can go into your wallet and download it and store it on a safe place. You don't need to create it. It gets created automatically when you download the wallet. And I don't want to go into detail now because it's a little bit technical, but when you download the wallet, you get automatically a private key. Somebody asks, is the Vitae Qt wallet address the safest way to keep your tokens safe? Yes, if you do it correctly. So if you do it, meaning, like I said earlier, if you put a password on it and you don't forget your password, it is the safest place to keep your funds so nobody can get to your funds. Blockchain, is it possible to transact from India? Yes, obviously. To put a password on a private key, it is in the wallet. In the settings, one of the options is encrypt your wallet or your keys. I don't remember exactly what it says. And there you can put a password and be sure you remember it again. I think it's on top in the right corner at settings. You can encrypt your wallet, means you put a password on it. Blockchain transactions is accepted in all countries all over the world. There's no restrictions on it as long as you're connected to the internet. You can, if you put a password and you lose it, you cannot recover your password again. Like I said, you are in control. There's no third party in control. You cannot recover your password. In blockchain, you don't need to make an account. It's a software you download from the internet, and it's stored locally on your computer. So you download a wallet, and it's stored on your private PC, and nobody has access. So people ask us all the time in the support and all over the place, can you do this? Can you do that? We cannot do anything. We are not in control of your private computer. Once you download a wallet, it's on your computer and it's yours. And whatever you do with it is your responsibility. You put the password. If you keep your password safe and you don't lose it, nobody can do anything with it. And we cannot reset. You can only reset something that is connected, like a website or something that's connected to the internet. But the software you download from the computer and you store it on your private computer, nobody has access to it. So nobody is able to recover your password. Again, which is the safest option to keep Vitae in your private computer, in your private wallet on your computer, but with a password. And you don't lose the password, obviously. I'm going to take a few more and then I'm going to a Qt wallet, when you download, has no password, but you can put a password on it. Like I said earlier, you go to the settings and you put a password on it. And once you put a password on it, this wallet is encrypted and nobody can access it without a password. This is very interesting. If your wallet where you put your funds go away, something happened to your computer, which could happen, your computer breaks or somebody steals I don't know, your computer falls into the water, yeah? Is it possible to get your funds back when you have your private key? Yes. If you keep your private key safe, you can always go to a different computer, download a new wallet and put in your private key and you will get your tokens back. Decentralized means that it's not stored on a centralized place. It's all the computers connected to the blockchain keep the information. And if you have the private key, which is the key to your funds, As long as you have it, you will have access to your funds no matter where you are, what computer you use, when you do it, you have always access to your funds. Mm. I might give once as a second layer of presentation how the QT works and how to do a password. I might do it, maybe other people will do it, but today the idea for today was to give you the understanding how what it is so you can figure out by yourself how to do it. If you lose your private key and you know your password, you lost your funds. Okay, one more question and then I'm going to finish this presentation. If you have your Vitae token stored on your Qt wallet and the internet goes down, what happens? Nothing. You don't lose it. Okay. Thank you very much. And by this, I would like one more thing to say. As we know, education is key to success. And when you are busy with Vitae, there's a lot of aspects involved, like I just did today. The technical stuff, but there's also, if you want to build a business in Vitae, there's other stuff that you need to educate yourself. So I would strongly recommend and advise you to book a ticket for the virtual GoPro event that you might know is coming up in December. So please register and don't forget to be there so you will be able to educate yourself on the other aspects that Vitae offers you as well. So thank you very much for watching. Have a good evening and hopefully I'll see you soon again.